I opened my home to my son Jason and his wife Kayla, gave them fresh linens, warm lasagna, and the keys to my past, and in return, they tried to steal the deed right out from under me. My own son handed me a fake property contract and smiled like it was nothing. I didn't sign it, but I did keep it. And when their lies hit the algorithm, I made sure the truth hit harder. Jason always loved my lasagna, said no restaurant could touch it. So when he and Kayla told me they'd be temporarily staying at my house while their condo underwent renovations, I cleared out the guest room, laid fresh linens, and spent the whole day simmering that sauce. I even lit the good candles, the ones shaped like autumn leaves, and made sure the house smelled like garlic and home. My little suburban ranch had seen better days, but I kept it clean, warm, familiar, just how Jason liked it growing up. Or so I thought. That night, I was just drying my hands when I heard them. Jason and Kayla, tucked into the guest room down the hall, voices muffled but sharp. She still has those dusty curtains from the 90s. It's like living in a thrift store, Kayla said, laughing. Jason chuckled low. I told you, my mom's stuck in the past. She still thinks paper napkins are fancy. My hands froze on the dish towel. I didn't breathe. I didn't blink. She even made lasagna, Kayla went on, like it was some kind of punchline. So domestic. God, we should totally do a before shoot of this place. Show people what a sad boomer nest looks like. My jaw clenched. The towel slipped from my fingers and landed in the sink with a quiet splash. I just opened my home to them. Put my name on the line to help Jason qualify for that condo mortgage. And this is what they said behind closed doors. My anger simmered. But I didn't knock on their door. Didn't storm in with a plate of lasagna and shattered dreams. No, I stayed quiet. For now. The next few days, I played the part. The polite, harmless mother-in-law. I made coffee, tidied up after them, pretended not to notice the way Kayla turned up her nose at my old throw pillows, or how Jason barely looked up from his phone during dinner. Then came the folder. Jason brought it to me while I was weeding the backyard. Hey, Mom, he said, almost too casually. Need you to sign something real quick. Tax thing. He smiled, all charm and dimples. Just makes things easier on the property. Legal language and whatnot. Nothing big. I dried my hands on my jeans. Suspicious. What kind of tax thing? Oh, just a formality, he said, flipping the folder open. Keeps everything clean for when we sell the condo later. Kayla's uncle looked it over. You trust me, right? I stared at him, at the pen he held out, at the empty signature line already marked with a yellow tab. My gut said wait. My heart said don't make waves. I took the folder. I'll read it over tonight, I said. His face twitched, just a little. Sure, he said, just don't take too long, okay? That night I did read it, every word, and buried halfway down the second page, between clauses about ownership and holding periods, I found it. A full property transfer of my house to Jason and Kayla. No tax thing, no easier paperwork, just them trying to take the roof from over my head. I barely slept. My heart beat like a war drum in my chest. And still, I held my tongue. The next morning, I walked into the kitchen and stopped cold. My bedroom was boxed up. Furniture, clothes, photo albums. All of it stacked in the garage like I was some tenant being evicted. Kayla stood in the kitchen, sipping from my mug. Oh, Carol, she said with that saccharine smile. Hope it's okay. Jason said you were going to take the guest room now. It's just better feng shui for filming. She looked me up and down. Plus, we need a more neutral backdrop for the collabs. The old quilt on your bed wasn't exactly on brand. I didn't say a word. I couldn't. The breath had left my lungs like someone knocked the wind clean out of me. Jason walked in behind her, phone in hand. Hey, we good with breakfast? He didn't look at me. Didn't see the way my hands trembled. My own son. The boy I nursed through chicken pox, who sobbed into my lap after his first breakup, who used to call me Mama Bear when he wanted an extra cookie. That same boy had packed up my room without asking. For feng shui. For filming. My fingers curled tight around the folder, still sitting on the counter. I opened it slowly and tapped the signature line. I didn't sign it, I said. Jason's head jerked up. Kayla raised an eyebrow. Wait, what? I looked at them both, two glossy strangers in designer loungewear, and something inside me hardened. I said I didn't sign it, I repeated. And I won't. Jason's smile faltered. Mom, you don't understand. No, I cut in, voice steel. You don't. I turned, walked to the garage and stared at the boxes, the taped-up memories. My entire life, packed away without a whisper. That was when I made my decision. I'd let them underestimate me. I'd let them treat me like some clueless old woman. But they were about to learn. I didn't survive 68 years, a husband's cancer, and 3 decades in a trauma ward to be steamrolled by a couple of social media grifters. They wanted my house? Fine. Let's see what they lose when I take it back. The next day, I was still shaking when I walked into the living room. Not with fear, with fury. The kind that settles low and quiet in your bones. I'd barely gotten my coffee poured when I heard Kayla's voice drifting in from the den. Her Kayla Daily livestream was already running, ring light on, makeup flawless. That fake warmth wrapped around every word like glitter on garbage. Good morning, loves. We've got something super special today, she purred into her phone camera. So we're doing a full transformation on our new space. You know, detoxing those, vintage vibes. She turned the camera, panning across my living room. My curtains, my lace doilies, the watercolor print of peonies I'd painted 20 years ago, already half yanked off the wall. I mean, it's sweet, she said with a giggle, but totally grandma core, right? Time for some clean lines and minimalism. A flood of heart emojis danced across her screen. Jason was in the background with a crowbar, ripping the wooden trim from my mantel. No one had asked. No one had said a word. I stood in the doorway, clutching my mug like a lifeline. What exactly are you doing? Kayla didn't miss a beat. Oh, hey, Carol. We're just sprucing things up for a brand collab. Don't worry, we're keeping the bones. Jason laughed. Yeah, Mom, we're upgrading you. Upgrading me. I bit down on the inside of my cheek so hard I tasted blood. Kayla spun back to the camera. Anyway, we love Carol, and we're just helping her transition to a more comfortable dementia-friendly space. Dementia, I blinked. Excuse me? Jason froze. Kayla didn't. Oh, sorry, she said, glancing at me with mock sympathy. Didn't mean to say that out loud. Just, better to be safe. Some of your habits have been a little concerning. Habits? What habits? Like what? I asked, my voice low. Jason cleared his throat. You left the stove on last week. Twice. Because you distracted me yelling about your crypto losses. I snapped. He held up a hand. We're just worried, Mom. That's all. People online will understand. It hit me then. They weren't just stealing my space. They were rewriting me, reducing me to a cautionary tale in a sponsored renovation arc. By that night, my bedroom had become Kayla's glam room. She filmed Get Ready With Me segments in front of my old mirror, now festooned with LED lights. My quilt was folded neatly on a shelf. So aesthetic, she said, and draped with jewelry she hadn't paid for. And I was banished to the drafty guest room. Every night, I'd hear them giggling in my kitchen, drinking wine I bought, planning new content. Boomer reacts to TikTok trends. My MIL reviews our bedroom decor, how to feng shui a neglected home. Neglected. One night, I came in to find the last slice of my lasagna, half eaten on a plate next to Kayla's phone. She was live again. And Carol's been such a trooper through all this. She's still adjusting, bless her heart, she said with that sugary pity. We're thinking about enrolling her in some local workshops. Keep her busy, She looked straight at me through the screen. After all, she added, mental health is so important at her age. The next morning, the power went out. I was halfway through making toast when everything blinked dark. The fridge hummed to a stop. The air went still. Jason walked in, yawning. "Oh, right. Forgot to tell you. We canceled the cable and energy plan under your name. Everything's getting moved to our provider. But you didn't transfer service," I said. "You just shut it off," he shrugged. "Gotta cut dead weight." My heart pounded. "You cut off my power to make a point?" "No, Mom. You did that when you started acting difficult." I packed a duffel that day. 2 changes of clothes. My medication. The folder with the property papers I still hadn't signed. And my dignity. Crumpled, but intact. I booked a room at the cheapest motel I could find. Faded curtains. Flickering lamp. It smelled like lemon cleaner and mold. Still, it was mine for the night. Jason texted once. "You didn't have to make this dramatic. No one forced you to leave. You chose this." Chose? I stared at that message until the screen dimmed. The next morning, I rode the bus to the grocery store. A woman I used to work with at the hospital spotted me in the cereal aisle. "Carol?" she said, blinking like I was a ghost. "Oh, honey. Are you okay?" I smiled the same way I had during every 14-hour shift, like I wasn't crumbling inside. But I saw her whispering to another nurse before I even left the parking lot. The gossip had started. I wasn't just evicted. I was pitied, dismissed, forgotten. I walked back to the motel in the rain, every step soaking through my shoes. My knees ached. My pride throbbed worse. I used to be respected, trusted, the calm in the storm. Now I was a cautionary tale on Kayla's TikTok, a senile silhouette in the background of their journey to minimalism. But I still had the folder. And a name on the deed. And a mind sharper than either of them realized. They wanted to play games? Good. Because I was about to change the rules. I tried not to cry when the motel manager asked if I needed extra towels. He couldn't have been older than Jason. Wore a name tag that read Eli, and had tattoos creeping up his neck, but his voice was kind. I told him I'd be checking out Friday. I didn't say why. Some truths you learn to carry alone. That night, I lay on the stiff mattress, knees curled, listening to the hum of the fridge, my fingers curled around the property folder. The paper edges were soft from how often I'd opened it. Part of me kept hoping there was something I missed. A clause. A loophole. Something that said, "You still belong here." But no, Jason had made his plan clear. He wanted me out, officially or not. And Kayla? She wanted the house. The story of the house. She'd filmed a segment in my garden that morning. Called it Manifesting Abundance. She stood among the daisies I planted with Jason when he was 7, talking about energy and alignment, while the petals brushed against her designer jeans. They were erasing me in real time. I stared at the ceiling, counting the little bumps in the plaster, until I fell asleep with my shoes still on. 2 days later, I walked 2 miles to what used to be our favorite diner. It had that same cracked vinyl booth in the corner and the same lemon meringue pie Jason always asked for on his birthday. I ordered coffee, nothing else. My budget didn't allow for memories anymore, and that's where I saw them. Across the dining room, huddled over a phone, were 2 of my old co-workers from the hospital, Linda and Cheryl. Linda spotted me first. Her eyes widened. Cheryl leaned over, whispered something, then laughed. Quiet, but not kind. I knew that laugh. The kind that says, "Poor thing. She used to be somebody." I turned away, heart racing, face hot. Did they know? Had Kayla posted something new? I didn't even need to check. I could already imagine the caption, "Helping my MIL find a safe, peaceful environment while we renovate Dove Red Heart, #Family Matters, #Mental Health Awareness." A lie, wrapped in a hashtag. I finished my coffee in silence, left a $1 tip and walked out before they could catch up. That evening I called Jason. "Hey," he said. Background noise. Laughter. Probably filming. "I want to see the baby," I said. "This weekend. The birthday party." A pause. Then, "It's just gonna be a small thing, Mom. You know. Low key." "I can bring a gift," I offered, careful to keep my voice level. More silence. Then Kayla in the background. Did she say gift? God, she's still trying to buy her way in. Jason sighed. Look, Mom, we're keeping it tight. Just close friends. Hope you understand. He didn't even sound sorry. My stomach dropped. I'm his grandmother. Right. But we're trying to create boundaries. And you leaving the house? That kind of confused things. I felt dizzy. Like I'd stepped off a curb that wasn't there. Kayla's voice rang out again, louder now. Tell her she can send something if she wants. We'll tag her. Tag me? A brittle laugh escaped my lips before I could stop it. Never mind, I said. Forget I asked. I hung up before he could reply. I sat there on the edge of the motel bed, staring at the plastic wood grain on the nightstand, trying not to fall apart. They'd invited everyone but me. Even people I'd met, their photographer, their waxing lady, a neighbor who borrowed my ladder once. But not me. Kayla's latest reel showed a glittering setup in my backyard. String lights, rented furniture, a unicorn-shaped cake. I watched it twice. Not a single mention of Nana. Instead, a caption, teaching our son healthy boundaries from day one, sparkling heart sparkles. As if I were the threat. That night, I didn't cry. I felt something colder, something sharper. Resolve. They'd taken enough. Of my space, my dignity, my name. But I still had the deed, still had the truth. And someone, somewhere, had to be watching them. Someone who saw through the filters and false sweetness. I didn't know it yet, but help was on the way. And she came wearing last year's boots and a fierce little smirk. Her name was Stacy, and she was about to crack Kayla's world wide open. I didn't sleep that night. The motel sheets felt like sandpaper against my skin, and the air conditioner groaned like it too had given up. I lay awake replaying that phone call. The sharpness in Jason's voice, the smug background giggles, the image of my swing set, draped with pastel balloons and toddlers in sponsored outfits. They were celebrating on my lawn. I couldn't help it. I clicked the link. Kayla had posted a birthday reel. Fast cuts, upbeat music, pastel cupcakes, matching outfits, her voiceover saying, creating generational peace, not generational trauma. And there, in the background, was my daffodil bed. The one Jason planted with me when he was 8. I remember him in his dinosaur pajamas, proudly pressing each bulb into the soil. Now they were just bouquet. Blurred in the background of a party I wasn't invited to. I closed my phone. Didn't cry. I'd passed tears. Now I was just hollow. Scraped clean like a plate no one planned to refill. But God help me, I still showed up. I didn't crash the party. I just parked down the street, far enough they wouldn't notice, close enough to see. The fence was decked out in streamers and fairy lights. A Kayla and Company banner fluttered from the gate like it was a boutique opening, not a child's birthday. Guests filtered in, women in midi dresses and white sneakers, influencers filming with one hand while balancing toddlers with the other. A few had their dogs in strollers. Of course, I sat in my car, engine off, purse in my lap, clutching a gift I knew he'd never open. It was a storybook. The Swing Tree, self-published years ago by a retired teacher I used to work with. The illustrations reminded me of Jason as a boy. Round cheeks, wild hair, dirt under his fingernails. He used to think swings could fly if you pumped your legs hard enough. I sat there for maybe 20 minutes, watching Kayla laugh with her ring light propped up like a third arm. Then I saw Stacy, hair in a messy bun, jeans torn at the knee, holding a half-wrapped gift bag like she found it under the car seat. She paused at the gate. Kayla spotted her, and I saw something change. Her smile twitched, didn't quite crack, but it stiffened, like frosting left too long in the fridge. They hugged, but it wasn't real. That much I could tell from across the street. Stacy wasn't welcome. She was tolerated. A relic. A risk. And Kayla knew it. I watched the whole thing unfold like a silent play. No sound, just body language. Stacy's eyes scanned the yard, She waved at someone half-heartedly, took a sip of lemonade, set her gift bag down near the cake table, and then she looked directly across the street, at me. I flinched but didn't look away. She gave a small nod, just once, like she knew, and that was it. She didn't come over, didn't text, but in that nod, something passed between us. A silent "I see you." I know. I left after that, drove back to the motel, and left the storybook on the bedside table. I didn't have an appetite, but I made myself walk to the diner down the block, the same one where Linda and Cheryl had whispered about me days ago. This time, I sat at the counter, waved off the menu. Just coffee. And that's when my phone buzzed. Hey, it's Stacy. I know we've never talked directly, but I think we should. I stared at the screen, blinking. My fingers hovered above the keyboard. I saw what they did. I used to run all Kayla's brand accounts. You should know what's really going on. That was the message that changed everything. I texted back, named the time and place. We met at a sad little cafe wedged between a dry cleaner and a vape shop. One of those places with dusty faux plants and a laminated menu sticky at the corners. I was already seated when Stacy walked in. She looked like she hadn't slept, not in that pretty, tragic way influencers pretend to be tired. No, Stacy's exhaustion was real. Lived in, worn like a badge. She spotted me, raised one hand in greeting. No fake smile, just recognition. You drink tea, right? She asked as she slid into the booth. The herbal kind, not that green stuff that tastes like boiled socks. That made me huff, just a little. She grinned. I remember Kayla mocked you once for using a kettle. Said it was extra. I nodded. She said it made the kitchen smell like old people's breath. Stacy rolled her eyes. God. She hated anything she couldn't monetize. And just like that, the wall between us dropped. She pulled out a folder from her tote bag. It was thick, worn. Tucked inside were printouts, screenshots, even sticky notes. I wasn't just her assistant, she said. I was her fixer. When Kayla lied to brands, I cleaned it up. When she bought followers, I handled the bots. I even managed the comments on her videos. Deleted anything critical, reshuffled hashtags, ran fake engagement accounts to make it look like people actually cared about her healing journey. I blinked. But she talks about honesty, transparency. Stacy gave a dry laugh. Yeah, well, she also donated to a dog rescue that turned out to be a luxury pet spa. She slid a document across the table. I recognized the logo immediately, one of those influencer-friendly wellness brands Kayla bragged about all over Instagram. She signed a sponsorship agreement. Said she'd donate 10% of earnings to mental health orgs. Instead, she had me create a fake receipt and PayPal it back to her backup account under a business name. She never donated a cent. I felt something in my gut twist. She went on. Remember that series she did? Home with Kayla? The real talk videos about being a caregiver? I nodded. She used you, Stacy said gently. Told the brand you had early-stage memory loss. That your quote, condition made the campaign, quote, deeply personal. She filmed you folding laundry in the background like you were some soft-focus B-roll. Got 12 grand for that one. I said nothing. My hands were folded tight on my lap, fingers bone white. Stacy reached into her bag again, pulled out a flash drive. This has all the contracts I kept copies of. Every doctored email, every fake receipt, every staged collab. I wasn't going to say anything, she admitted, voice cracking. But after that birthday party, after I saw how she cut you out, that was it. I was done. She looked at me, eyes suddenly glassy. You were always kind, she said. When I came over and my car broke down, you made me tea, asked if I needed a place to sleep. Kayla called you annoying after that, said you were trying too hard. I couldn't speak. My throat had closed around something hard and ancient. Grief. Anger. The hollow ache of being told your love was annoying. You okay? Stacy asked, reaching across the table. I nodded, but barely. I just didn't know how far it went. "Oh, it gets worse," she said, sitting back. "She's planning a rebrand. All this wholesome family stuff? It's not converting like she wants. She told a PR girl that next year, she's pivoting to wellness through divorce. Said, and I quote, 'Nothing boosts engagement like a brave woman walking away from a toxic man.'" I stared. She's going to leave Jason? She's prepping for it. Not tomorrow, but soon. She's just waiting until she can afford to. I gripped the edge of the table. "My son gave up everything for her." Stacy shrugged. "Yeah? Well, he's about to find out what that costs." I picked up the flash drive, turned it over in my palm like it might burn me. "What do I do with this?" "Send it to the brands," she said. Quietly. Anonymously. "Doesn't matter. Once one falls, the rest will follow." She built her name on lies. I slid the drive into my purse. Then I looked Stacy dead in the eye. "Why are you really doing this?" She blinked. "Excuse me? You could have let her sink on her own. Why help me?" She was quiet a moment. Then she said, "Because I've watched you get erased in real time, I helped her do it. And I need to unwrite some of that before it eats me alive." And then she smiled. Small, tired, and real. "I don't know what she told you, but you're not crazy. And you're not done." I left the cafe with a flash drive in my purse and a fire in my chest I hadn't felt in years. They thought they could scrub me out of my own story. But I was about to make a comeback. Quiet, patient, and devastating. There's a particular kind of silence that comes after you've made a decision. It's not peaceful. Not yet. It's the stillness before a storm. The moment when you stop tiptoeing around and start laying bricks. That's where I was. I sat at the motel's tiny desk, flash drive in hand, watching the screensaver bounce across my laptop. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I wasn't tech-savvy, not really, but I'd filled out enough hospital charts and patient forms in my day to know how to organize a paper trail. And baby, Stacy had given me a trail paved in gold. Fake invoices, forged donation receipts, brand contracts where Kayla claimed I had, quote, "advanced cognitive decline" to justify sponsorships about elder care, dozens of messages between her and her manager, laughing about manipulating the boomerangle. Boomerangle, huh? I clicked open my Gmail and made a new folder, Kayla Receipts. Then, one by one, I drafted emails. No threats, no dramatic monologues, just links to screenshots, document scans, and a calm little subject line. "Regarding your partnership with Kayla M. Urgent compliance concern." I sent the first 3 to mid-tier brands, the ones she thought were beneath her now. A protein powder, a thrift-style home goods store, and a yoga app I'd never heard of. Small, but vocal. I knew how this worked. The smaller brands jump first. They're afraid of scandal, afraid of being scammed. And once they jump, the big fish start sniffing the water. I didn't stop there. I opened Reddit, searched the influencer threads, found a few juicy ones talking about Kayla M's aesthetic glow-up. I made a throwaway account. Username, Nana Knows Things. Then I posted, "Used to know Kayla when she lived with her MIL. Funny how she talks about healing family wounds. She tried to force her own mother-in-law into a guest room and lied to brands about her health for sponsorship deals. I've seen the contracts. Watch this space." Then I logged off, closed the laptop, took a deep breath. I expected it to take days. It took 6 hours. By sundown, my inbox had replies from 2 of the brands. One said they were reviewing the materials with legal. The other simply wrote, "Thank you for bringing this to our attention. Effective immediately, our collaboration with MZM is suspended, pending investigation." I stood up so fast my chair tipped back. Kayla's Instagram was quiet for a few hours. Then she posted a selfie, fresh-faced, soft smile, the kind where the caption always starts with, "So I wasn't going to say anything, but..." I read it out loud. "Some people really can't handle growth, especially older women who feel left behind. I forgive them. I send them love." My mouth dropped open. She was framing me. Again. now as some bitter elder throwing stones at her healing light. I didn't care. Because the next morning, the real fallout began. Reddit exploded. Stacy had started commenting, under her own name. She dropped screenshots with timestamps, full email headers. She called it #BoomerJustice. It caught fire. Drama channels picked it up. TikTok commentators began stitching old Kayla videos with sarcastic captions like, "This aged like unpasteurized milk." One even slowed down Kayla's "Detox Your Space" reel and layered in horror movie music. People weren't laughing with her anymore. They were laughing at her. By the end of the day, 4 more brands pulled out. Jason texted me at 6:17 p.m. "Did you have something to do with this?" I didn't respond. Instead, I packed my things, checked out of the motel, and went to the senior hostel down the road. The place wasn't fancy, but it was warm. Clean. The lady at the front desk, Mrs. Henrietta Brooks, welcomed me like I was someone she'd been waiting for. "You don't have to explain anything," she said, patting my hand. "We've all got a story." My room had a twin bed, a working heater, and a little window that looked out over the church parking lot. It wasn't mine yet, not like my house, but it was enough. That night, I sipped tea with 3 other women in the common room. One had been a librarian, one was a retired postal worker. The third? A former hairdresser whose own daughter hadn't spoken to her in 7 years. "I should have let her wear the damn purple dress to prom," she said, laughing. Apparently, that was enough to ruin me forever. We all laughed with her, and for the first time in weeks, I felt something flicker in my chest. Hope. Not big, not bold, but steady. Because I wasn't invisible anymore. People were watching, listening. And Kayla? She was spiraling. I still hadn't played my final card. But when I did, the house she tried to steal would come right back to me, brick by brick. I woke up to headlines. Well, not headlines exactly. More like drama channel thumbnails with Kayla's frozen face in mid-blink and text screaming things like, "Influencer exposed for lying about charity donations." #BoomerJustice. Kayla M. canceled after MIL speaks out. This TikToker tried to gaslight her own mother-in-law. It backfired. I didn't post a thing myself. Didn't comment. Didn't click like or share a single reel. But I watched. Quietly. Patiently. Like I used to do during late-night ER shifts, when the young surgeons fumbled and I just stood there, steady as a lighthouse. The internet had its teeth in her now. And Kayla? She was bleeding glitter. She tried to pivot fast, deleted over 100 posts, shut off comments, then popped back up 24 hours later in a messy bun and hoodie, eyes red like she dabbed them with a wet Q-tip for sympathy. "Hey guys," she sniffled in a video, "I just want to say, mental health is everything. And this week's been a lot. So many lies and hate. But I see the light. I'm healing." I actually laughed. Out loud. Healing from what, girl? Consequences? Jason finally called me. Again. This time I picked up. "Mom," he said, voice tight. "What did you do?" I sipped my tea. "What I should have done a long time ago." "You humiliated us," he snapped. "Kayla's losing everything. We had brand deals lined up through Christmas. And I had a house," I said, "before you tried to steal it from under me with a fake contract and a box in the garage." He went quiet. I kept going. "You made me invisible. Treated me like some half-senile burden while she filmed her way through my life. Now you want sympathy?" "Mom, we were trying to build something," he said, like I was too dense to understand. "You're making this personal." "Oh, sweetheart," I said calmly. "It is personal." He hung up. No apology. No admission. Just silence. But silence didn't stop the storm. That evening, one of the bigger watchdog Instagram accounts posted a full expose. They broke it into 10 tidy slides, quotes, contracts, clips. Stacy even added a voice memo. When Kayla said her MIL had dementia, she was totally fine. She was just in the way. Over 80,000 likes in 4 hours. I kept refreshing, not out of vanity, but vindication. I wasn't crazy, wasn't bitter, wasn't wrong. I was just done being quiet. By Friday, it reached the news. Not front page, but one of those lifestyle blurbs tucked between pet adoptions and viral trends. Enough to make it real. Kayla's follower count dropped like a stone. And then came the message. Not from Kayla, from Maya. Remember Maya? The bright-eyed content manager from a company Kayla once worked with. She DM'd me through a burner Instagram account. "Hi, Carol. I'm no longer under NDA. Just wanted to say, I always knew something was off. Thanks for speaking up. You're not alone." I stared at the message until my vision blurred. Not alone. Those words broke something in me I didn't realize was still holding on. Because for weeks, I'd carried this rage alone, brushed past it with motel coffee and shallow breaths and the quiet ache of being replaced by a brand. But now, there were others. Maya, Stacy, strangers online posting memes about boomer justice and quote "don't mess with Nana." One even made a clip of Kayla's old video with me folding laundry, zoomed in with the caption, "The real MVP. Look at the hands that built your free ride." I didn't recognize myself in that frame. I looked tired, small, but the comments didn't. They called me strong, solid, graceful under pressure. "Reminds me of my grandma," one said. "She would have done the same." And in that moment, I felt something return to me. Not fame, not praise, something better. Ownership. I may not have had the audience, the ring lights, the aesthetic pantry, but I had the truth. And now, I had momentum. Stacy texted me that night, "Check Kayla's latest post. You'll want popcorn." I did. It was a Notes app screenshot on a pastel background. After deep reflection and a mental health break, I'm taking time to step back from social media. I'm committed to accountability and growth. Then below, P.S. I forgive everyone who tried to destroy me, even family, especially them. Oh, honey, that was her white flag. And it was written in glitter pen. I didn't comment. Didn't need to. I already knew what came next. Because, while Kayla was busy spinning apologies, Jason had been busy trying to clean up the mortgage mess. And I still had the folder. And a recording he never saw coming. One night, right before they boxed up my bedroom, Jason came into the kitchen. I'd left my phone on the table, recording. I'd been trying to catch one of Kayla's shady remarks, but instead, I got him. "Look," he'd said, "just keep pushing her. She'll cave. She always does. She's a soft touch." "Even if she doesn't sign it?" Kayla had asked. "She doesn't need to," Jason said. "I already recorded her saying she trusts me to handle it all. That'll hold in court if we need it." He laughed. I had the laugh on tape. And I had never said that. But what I did have was him admitting to manipulation and intent. It was all I needed. Because you can erase a lot with filters, but some truths don't wash out. I made the call on a Tuesday. The lawyer I reached out to was someone I remembered from back when I worked at the hospital. He wasn't flashy, didn't have a billboard or TV jingle, but he was the kind of man who read every page and asked every question. His name was Harold Finch. "Carol," he said, after I laid it all out, "this is ugly, but it's not unwinnable." We met in person the next day, at his little office across from a shuttered laundromat. He wore the same wireframe glasses he'd had when he helped one of our nurses file for divorce 10 years ago. "I need to know you're sure," he said. "You want to push this?" I looked him square in the face. They pushed first. I handed him the folder. The recording. Copies of text messages where Jason admitted I didn't need the house anyway. Harold nodded slowly. "This is enough." It took exactly 8 days. 8 days of paperwork, of calls, of quietly unrolling the trap they'd laid for me. And on the 9th day, We filed a formal motion to reassert ownership on the grounds of coercion, attempted fraud, and improper transfer because Jason hadn't read the fine print. He thought that once I signed anything, even a utility bill, he could claim I endorsed the house transfer. But what he forgot was, I never signed the deed. Never even initialed. And that little recording of him bragging about tricking me? That was the nail. "You sure you want to go back in person?" Harold asked. "We could do it all by mail." "I want to look them in the eye," I said. So I did. The day I stepped back into that house, the one I bought, repaired, and kept warm through every stage of Jason's life, I didn't knock. Harold came with me, quiet, steady. We walked right up the porch like we owned it. Because legally, I did. Kayla opened the door. She looked thinner, her skin pale beneath a thick layer of foundation. No ring light, no filter. Just a woman who'd run out of angles. "Carol?" She blinked, mascara clumping at the corners. We didn't expect. You didn't expect me to survive you," I said. Jason appeared behind her, wearing sweatpants and that old college hoodie I bought him on clearance. His eyes were bloodshot. "We're in the middle of something," he mumbled. "Can we talk later?" Harold stepped forward and handed him the envelope. Jason opened it, read it, blanched. "What the hell is this?" "An injunction," Harold said. "Pending resolution of a property dispute. You're no longer permitted to alter, list, or occupy this home without the owner's consent. But we live here," Kayla snapped. "For now," Harold replied. "That ends next week, unless you'd like to contest. In court, with witnesses." I crossed my arms. "And with a copy of your TikTok earnings from the past year," I added. "I imagine the IRS would love to see those." Jason dropped the envelope. "You can't do this," he said. "We're your family." "No," I said, soft and firm. "You were." He lunged forward. "Mom, be reasonable. We're behind on payments. If we lose this place, we've got nowhere." I raised my hand. "You packed my life into boxes, turned off my lights, laughed while you filmed me like I was a punchline. And now you want mercy?" Kayla opened her mouth. I didn't let her speak. "I rebuilt this house after your father died. I used my pension to renovate the bathroom you film skincare ads in. Every tile in that kitchen, I laid it myself." Her lips tightened. "I was going to sign it over," I said. "Eventually. I believed in legacy, in love, in you." Jason looked down. "But you made your choice," I finished. "And now I'm making mine." The air inside that house was thick, like stale perfume and fear. I could smell it. I turned to Harold. "Let's go." As we stepped off the porch, I heard Kayla mutter something. "Boomer witch." Harold raised an eyebrow. I just smiled. "Let her cast her little curses," I said. "She's not the one holding the deed." By the time we reached Harold's office again, he had already filed the eviction order. "Give it 3 days," he said. "Sheriff will post notice." And sure enough, on the 4th morning, I got the call. They'd been served. I didn't celebrate. Not really. I made a pot of strong tea, sat on the patio at the senior hostel, and watched the sun rise. A soft orange glow spilled across the pavement, like something being restored. I didn't feel victorious. I felt steady, like a tide turning. They thought they could erase me, but I was the foundation they tried to bury. And now, I was reclaiming every brick. 3 days. That's all the sheriff gave them. And when he pinned that official notice to the front door, bright yellow, legal, and loud, I imagined the internet was the first place Kayla ran. But TikTok didn't want her back. Her comment sections were locked. Her last video had more clown emojis than hearts. Even her fans, the loyal ones, had started to peel away like wallpaper in a damp house. That was the thing about performative purity. It cracked the minute real life showed through. Still, she tried. Oh, she tried. The next day she went live, sat on a beige floor, legs crossed, hair messy, no makeup. Her voice was breathy and trembling. "I didn't want to say this," she whispered, but I have to protect my peace, my mental health, my child." She paused, swallowed, looked off camera, like a tear was coming. I was manipulated, controlled by toxic family dynamics. I thought my husband's mom supported me, but she tried to sabotage me. Out of jealousy. Jealousy. I almost dropped my teacup laughing. "I know I've made mistakes," she continued, her voice trembling just enough to seem human, "but I'm healing. And I won't be silenced." She ended the video with a shaky breath, and the words, #break the cycle. It went viral, for all the wrong reasons. Someone clipped her crying over toxic boomers and stitched it with footage of her dancing in my daffodil garden. The caption read, "Break the cycle of fraud?" Even the influencer gossip channels couldn't keep up. And Jason? Well, Jason wasn't posting anything. No lives, no tweets, just silence. According to Stacy, who still had a few moles in their circle, he'd been let go from his real estate investment job after someone forwarded his recorded quote about pushing mom until she caves. Companies don't like that kind of PR, especially when it comes gift-wrapped in a trending hashtag like #BoomerJustice. That Thursday, Stacy called me. "You watching this?" she said, already half laughing. "Watching what?" Red Pill Report just did a takedown on Kayla, called her the yogurt-lidded narcissist. She paused, snorted. "Also, you're in the thumbnail. Your hand. Folding laundry." I turned on the laptop and sure enough, there it was, her documentary-style apology video, overlaid with sarcastic commentary and close-ups of my hands. The video already had 200,000 views. Someone had even added dramatic music when Kayla referred to herself as a truth-seeking empath who just wanted peace. But the real cherry? A comment pinned by the video creator. Reminder, she told brands her MIL had dementia just to sell vegan shampoo. It got nearly 9,000 likes. At first, I was shocked, then flattered, and finally I just shook my head. I never wanted fame, but I'd take vindication. The next day, the sheriff posted a final notice, 72 hours to vacate. I didn't watch them leave, didn't stand across the street or film like they did to me. I didn't need to. Because this wasn't about spectacle, this was about sovereignty. But that night, I did get a text. It was from Kayla. No greeting, no name. "I hope you're proud. You ruined everything." I stared at the screen, thumb hovering. Then I replied, "No, you did that. I just stopped covering for you." She didn't respond, and that was the last I ever heard from her. Jason, though. He tried one last time. 3 days after they left, I heard a knock at the senior hostel. It was soft, hesitant. It was Jason. Hair overgrown, hoodie limp, face older than I remembered. He looked like a man who'd finally been left alone with himself and didn't like the company. "Mom," he said. I held the doorframe, said nothing. "I messed up," he whispered. She played me. I see that now. But I lost my job. My kid's confused. We're staying on someone's couch. I don't know where else to go." "You had a home," I said. "And you gave it away for clout." "I'm sorry," he said. But he said it like someone reading it off a card, like someone hoping to get something back. "You're not here because you're sorry," I said. "You're here because you're scared." His jaw tensed. "I just want to fix things." I shook my head. "No, Jason. You want to rewind time, but you can't. Actions have echoes." He looked at the ground. "I miss you," he mumbled. "I did too. But I didn't say it. I'm not your wallet. I'm not your stepping stone. And I'm not your backup plan. So that's it? That's boundaries." He turned, slow and heavy, like every step away from me weighed twice as much as it used to. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I just closed the door behind him. And this time, I locked it. The morning I returned home, I wore lipstick. Not much, just a swipe of that plum shade I used to save for holidays. I stood on the porch a moment before unlocking the door. Let the breeze touch my cheek. closed my eyes, and listened to the wind moving through the daffodils. The swing creaked gently behind me. For once, not from a camera being set up. When I turned the key and stepped inside, I expected to feel relief. But what I felt instead was a jolt. Like my house had been wearing a mask, and now the real version stepped forward to greet me. The place was hollow. They'd left in a hurry. The glam room, formerly my bedroom, was stripped bare, the mirror lights dangling like loose nerves. The kitchen had lipstick on the cabinet handles, and 3 broken wine glasses shoved under the sink. In the guest room, where they'd stashed me like a suitcase, I found an empty protein bar wrapper, a single false eyelash, and one of Jason's old socks balled up in the corner. It smelled like cinnamon and synthetic grief, but it was mine. I walked through each room slowly, touching things like they were artifacts. The worn edge of the sofa, the cabinet where I used to hide Jason's Halloween candy from himself, the hall closet still lined with shelf paper I'd stuck on in 1987. They hadn't touched that. Didn't matter to them. I pulled out the property folder one last time, opened to the deed, and just stood there holding it. There it was. My name, full and fierce, printed clear as day. No co-signers, no footnotes, just me. I took the papers to the living room and fed them, 1 page at a time, into the shredder. Not the legal ones, of course. Those went in the lockbox. But the false agreements? The fake tax documents? The printout Jason had handed me with that yellow sticky tab marking the signature line? Shred, shred, shred. It wasn't rage that moved my hand. It was reclamation. Afterward, I lit a candle. Just one. Set it on the kitchen counter and brewed tea in my old ceramic kettle, the same one Kayla called cluttercore. She'd said the sound of it boiling was triggering, said it made her feel suffocated by generational energy. You know what I felt when it whistled? Safe. I carried my tea to the dining room and sat down with a blank notebook. Across the top, I wrote in thick black ink, plan. Not escape, not survival, just plan. I started sketching what the house could become, not for YouTube, not for clout, for community. I thought of Mrs. Patel down the street, who always waved when I raked leaves, but whose daughter moved away last fall. Of Marcus, the handyman who patched my fence for free after that storm and said he slept in his truck more nights than not. Of Dorothy, from the senior hostel, who made the best peach cobbler I'd ever tasted but couldn't get a lease without a cosigner. By dinner, I'd mapped out the beginnings of a co-op. Not a commune, not a charity, a space where elders could live with dignity, share costs, trade meals and skills, watch each other's backs. A real home, not curated, not monetized, lived in. I texted Mrs. Patel that night. Would you come by for tea tomorrow? Thinking of making this house useful again. She replied within minutes. I'll bring shortbread. I smiled. Closed the notebook. Let the quiet settle into the walls like good perfume. This wasn't revenge. This was renewal. The next morning, I opened the windows wide. Let the wind roll through. I pulled down the blackout curtains Kayla installed and tossed them into a donation bag. Marcus showed up with a toolkit and a smile. Didn't think I'd see this porch again, he said. Well, she's mine, I told him. And she's ready for company. We repaired floorboards and repainted trim, scrubbed out the vanity in the guest bathroom, and replaced Kayla's LED ring light with a hand-stitched embroidery hoop that read, "Mind the wrinkles, they're the best parts." By the weekend, the house didn't just look different. It felt different, like it could breathe again. One afternoon, I found Jason's old baseball glove wedged behind the water heater. I held it a long time, and then I walked it to the trash. Not out of hate, but because it didn't fit here anymore. This wasn't a shrine. This was a new chapter. And this time, I was writing every word myself. The sheriff called me that Monday morning. "Ma'am, just a courtesy heads up. They're on their way." I knew who he meant. I thanked him, hung up, and set the kettle on. No panic, no pacing, just quiet preparation. When I heard the knock at the door, I didn't answer right away. I let them knock again. And only then, I opened it. Jason stood on the porch, sweating under his too-tight blazer. Kayla, in sunglasses that still had the price tag dangling from one arm, stood behind him. She held her phone low, camera pointed upward, just in case. He started with, "Mom, we need to talk," but the uniform behind them cut him off. Sheriff Boyd, a man, built like a desk. He held up the eviction notice. Still firm, still official. "Ma'am, just need your verbal acknowledgement. We're here to supervise the removal of any remaining property." I nodded. "Go ahead." Jason turned to me, eyes wide. "You're seriously doing this? You're gonna throw your own son out on the street?" "You already threw me out, Jason," I said. "You just used boxes instead of your voice." Kayla stepped forward. "Legally, we still have a claim. We contributed financially." Sheriff Boyd held up a hand. "Ma'am, you are listed as a squatter under the motion. You can file for appeal, but that process starts after removal." She looked like she'd swallowed a lemon whole. "This is harassment," she spat. "This is elder abuse. The other way around." I didn't answer. I just stepped aside as two more officers arrived behind them, ready to oversee the retrieval of any personal items. A quiet efficiency fell over the porch. Clipboards, gloves, a moving dolly. No drama. Until Kayla turned on the waterworks. "Do you people even know what she's done to us?" she cried, voice raised just enough for the phone mic to pick up. "She used her age as a weapon, played the victim, weaponized sympathy, and now she's throwing us out like trash." Sheriff Boyd turned to me. "Want to respond, ma'am?" I folded my arms. "No need. She's filming. She's not listening." Jason stepped closer. Just give us a few more days, please. The baby's confused. He thinks this place is still ours." "That's because you told him it was," I said. "You taught him to believe in illusions." He looked at me then, really looked, and for the first time in years I saw it. Not anger, not entitlement, just loss. But I couldn't save him from the hole he dug. Not anymore. "We'll be gone in an hour," he said finally, voice flat. "No rush," I said. "You've already taken what mattered." Kayla shoved a pile of skincare boxes into a bin, cursing under her breath. One of the officers asked if they needed help. "No," she snapped. "We don't need help from boomers." And just like that, her voice cracked. The facade slipped. No curated captions, no pity performance. Just a woman whose curtain had fallen. By the time the last of their boxes hit the driveway, her lashes were smudged, and Jason looked like he hadn't slept in days. They stood there, surrounded by their belongings and a camera that had finally run out of battery. "Is this what you wanted?" Jason asked, one last time. I didn't answer. I just stepped back inside, and slowly, quietly, closed the door. Click. Not a slam, a click. Like final punctuation on a chapter, already too long. That evening, Marcus came by, helped move the old armchair back into the living room. We carried the quilted blanket out of storage, unfolded it together. "This house feels right again," he said, wiping dust from the mantel. I nodded. She remembers me now. Mrs. Patel brought over lentil stew, and a smile wide enough to warm the floorboards. Later that week, Dorothy moved in, set up in the spare room with her recipe cards and stories about jazz clubs in Detroit. It wasn't a mansion, but it was ours. And not one person here had to ask permission to belong. We ate dinner that night on mismatched plates, laughter rising up through the rafters. The table wasn't Instagram perfect, but it was full. No hashtags, no filters, just life, raw and real and earned. As the dishes soaked and the windows fogged from the stew, I sat back and listened. Not for applause, not for validation. By the time September rolled around, there were 4 of us living in the house. Mrs. Patel took the room with the best light so she could tend to her spider plants without asking permission. Dorothy moved into the den, said it reminded her of her first apartment in, quote, 72, minus the shag carpet. And Marcus? He set up in the garage with a cot and a workbench, fixing things that didn't need fixing just to stay busy. We weren't roommates. We were something quieter, sturdier, a soft landing. Every Sunday, I made breakfast. Eggs, biscuits, fried apples, in a cast-iron skillet I'd owned longer than Kayla's been alive. Nobody rushed. We sat in our robes, steam rising from chipped mugs, passing around the newspaper like it was sacred. No phones on the table, no ring lights, just us. It felt radical. One evening, I found Mrs. Patel humming to herself as she recovered the couch cushions with fabric she'd salvaged from her old saris. "Why waste beauty?" she said. "Just because it's had a life already?" That line stuck with me. Why waste beauty? So I didn't. The house wasn't modern anymore, wasn't market trendy, but it held warmth in its bones. It smelled like turmeric and wood polish and old stories. Every crack had a memory. I could have sold it, sure. Could have moved into a condo, kept my distance, lived the quiet retirement everyone assumed I wanted, but no. This place still had work to do, so I called it the landing room, a nod to how birds come home. And we began taking applications, quietly, by word of mouth. Not just seniors, not just women. People who had been pushed out of their homes, their families, their narratives. A single father named Jorge moved in after his teenage daughter told him he was too embarrassing to be seen with. He cried the first night, sitting in the backyard with a beer and the swing Jason once helped me build. "I used to think I was the bad guy," he told me. "But I think I was just tired," I nodded. "Tired people look scary when nobody listens." He wiped his eyes. "You always talk like you're writing a novel." "Maybe I am," I said. I'd started journaling again. Not online. Not for likes. Just pen and paper, late at night. Some entries were letters to Jason I'd never send. Others were just grocery lists. Or quotes from Dorothy, who once shouted from the laundry room, "There's no such thing as dirty clothes, just ones that remember where you've been." I'd never laughed so hard doing laundry. We planted new flowers that fall. The daffodils came back, of course, they always do. But this time, we added marigolds, lavender, even some wild strawberries that grew like they knew they belonged. We painted the fence teal. Not tasteful, not subtle, joyful. And I started keeping a little ledger of everyone's contributions. Marcus fixed the porch step and built a pantry shelf. Dorothy ran the hotline, a notebook where we wrote grocery needs and medication reminders. Mrs. Patel hosted chai hours every Friday. And me? I just kept the lights on. And the doors open. One night, we hosted a potluck. Not planned. It started with Jorge grilling chicken thighs and Dorothy pulling out a peach cobbler, just in case someone stopped by. By sundown, we had 10 folding chairs in the yard and more food than table space. We talked about lost mothers and first cars, about crushes that never called back, about how strange it feels when your name stops appearing in someone else's story. And I remember thinking, this is what they tried to erase. Kayla, with her filters and her fakery. Jason, with his fear and greed. They tried to erase the quiet things, the earned things. But here we were, reclaiming them one lemon bar at a time. That night, I sat on the swing after everyone had gone inside. The stars were shy. The moon was full. My knees ached, and I didn't mind. I thought of Jason, wondered where he was sleeping. Not with judgment, just wonder. Because healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means remembering, without going numb. 2 weeks later, I found a letter tucked in the mailbox. No return address. Just my name. Carol. Inside was a photo. Me and Jason, circa 1996. He had grass stains on his jeans. I was holding a paper plate with birthday cake, grinning like I still believed in promises. On the back, in Jason's handwriting, "I'm not ready to say sorry, but I wanted you to know, I still remember." I read it twice. Then I placed it in the back of my journal. Not forgiven, not forgotten, but filed. I didn't think about them every day anymore. That was a kind of peace I didn't expect. How forgetting could feel like forgiveness in slow motion. But now and then, their names surfaced, in whispers, in updates I didn't ask for, but always received. Jorge's niece texted me one afternoon, a grainy screenshot from a job board. "Is this your DIL? Kayla M., personal branding coach, former lifestyle influencer, specializes in crisis rebrands." I stared at the ad a long time. The photo was filtered to high heaven, jawline sharpened, whites of the eyes unnaturally bright. But even Photoshop couldn't mask the desperation. Under testimonials, someone had written, "She helped me spin a very public divorce into a platform." Of course she had. A few days later, Dorothy came home from the grocery store with a gleam in her eye. "You're gonna want to hear this," she said, dropping a bag of lentils on the counter. Guess who I saw in line at the pharmacy, asking for samples? She didn't have to say it. "Kayla?" Dorothy nodded, smirking. "Arguing with the cashier over an expired store credit. Said she was promised influencer pricing." The poor girl looked like she'd rather get bitten by a raccoon. I didn't laugh. Not quite. Just raised an eyebrow and stirred the pot on the stove. "People forget," Dorothy said. "The internet may move fast, but the real world? It remembers." That same week, Marcus found Jason's old car in a church parking lot 3 towns over. Tires balding. Backseat filled with moving boxes. "Guess they're still couch hopping," he said quietly. Or worse. I didn't reply. I just kept weeding the front path. Because while they drifted, untethered, I'd started anchoring again. We'd added 2 more residents. Connie, a retired school secretary whose daughter just needed space. And Tom, a widower who cried when he saw we had a clothesline. "Feels like a home," he said, laying out his shirts. "Not a holding pen." And that was the truth of it. We weren't just housing folks. We were reminding each other what belonging looked like. One evening, Jorge and Dorothy made spaghetti, while Mrs. Patel taught Connie how to roll samosas. Marcus fixed the hallway light. I labeled spice jars, not because anyone asked, but because I could. And then the doorbell rang. It startled all of us. We didn't get visitors. Not without a heads up. I opened it. A young man stood there. 20, maybe. Nervous. Clean shirt. Wringing his hands like he was trying to squeeze out his courage. "Hi," he said. "Are you Carol?" I nodded. "My mom," he said. "Well, she saw that Reddit thing. The post. The boomer justice story." My face went still. He rushed on. "She said it reminded her of herself. She was kicked out of our place last year. I didn't know until it was too late." His voice cracked. I wanted to say I'm sorry. For what your son did. For what I let happen to mine." I stepped outside, barefoot on the porch. "What's your name?" I asked. "Luke," he said. "Does your mother have somewhere safe now?" He nodded. "She's living with her sister. They're rebuilding." I gave him a soft smile. "Good. It's never too late." He swallowed hard, eyes glassy. "People online. They said you were bitter. But I don't think you are." I leaned against the railing. "No, Luke. I'm just done apologizing for not staying silent." He nodded, then turned to leave, but paused. "One more thing," he said. "Would you ever take your son back?" I looked out at the street. The daffodils were blooming again. Someone had tied a wind chime to the porch awning. The house sang softly in the breeze. And in that moment, I didn't picture Jason as he was. I pictured him as he had been. Chubby cheeks, wobbly legs, gripping my hand in the grocery store, whispering, "Mama, don't let go." I didn't answer Luke right away. I just stood there, the sun casting long shadows across the porch. Then finally, I said, "Only if he came back as the boy who said please, not the man who said nothing." Luke nodded, as if that made perfect sense. And then he was gone. That night, I watched the porch light flicker on, sat in the living room with Mrs. Patel, folding towels, the wind chime ringing overhead. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. Because sometimes, justice doesn't come with applause. It comes with peace. That fall, the first frost came early. The kind that turns porch, steps slick, and scatters the marigolds overnight. I was pulling a blanket over Dorothy one morning. She dozed off during Jeopardy, when I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror. Gray hair wild as ever, wrinkles like soft pencil lines, marking where the story got intense, and I smiled. That night, we had supper. Not dinner, supper. The kind that smells like history and sounds like second chances. It was Jorge's idea, said we needed to mark something. Not an anniversary, exactly. Just gratitude. We all pitched in. Marcus grilled chicken thighs out back. Dorothy made cornbread so sweet it could have passed for dessert. Mrs. Patel brought lentils with enough spice to wake the dead. Connie made a Jell-O mold because, as she said, every proper gathering needs one god-awful dish nobody touches. And me? I made lasagna. The old recipe. Jason's favorite. The kitchen smelled like memory. I didn't cry. I didn't linger on what had been. I just stirred and layered and salted and baked. And when we sat down to eat, something settled inside me. We passed plates, shared seconds, laughed, until someone nearly choked on a green bean. We were strangers once. Now we were something else. Not family by blood, but family by rescue. Midway through dessert, peach cobbler and the Jell-O, untouched as promised. Marcus raised his glass. I've lived a lot of places, he said. Couches, trucks, a church basement once. But this house? It feels like it forgives you the minute you walk through the door. No one spoke for a moment. Then Jorge said, "That's because Carol built it that way." They all looked at me. I held my napkin in my lap, twisted tight. "I just opened the door," I said. "Y'all did the rest." And it was true, I had started something, but they had breathed life into it. After supper, we sat on the porch in borrowed sweaters, sipping weak coffee and listening to the wind move through the chimes. Dorothy pulled her chair close and whispered, "You ever think he'll come back?" She didn't say Jason's name. Didn't have to. I took a long sip before answering. "He already did," I said. "But he didn't knock." She nodded. "You'd tell him no again, wouldn't you?" "I'd tell him to sit on the steps," I said. "Wait. Listen. Then maybe, I'd open the screen door." We laughed, but quietly, because healing takes time. And forgiveness? That's a key you don't just hand back over. You make 'em earn it. Inside, Jorge did the dishes. Mrs. Patel watered the plants with moonlight in her hair. And I watched them all and felt something I hadn't in years. Needed. Not for money. Not for meals. For presence. That night, before bed, I opened my journal and wrote, "This house is not a stage. It's not a brand. It's not a campaign to monetize grief. It's a place where the broken parts get aired out and don't have to explain themselves." Then I tucked the photo of Jason back between the pages and slid it shut. Filed. Not forgotten. Filed. The next morning, I got a call. A casting agent. "Ms. Carroll? There's a production company, kind of a docuseries, focused on multi-generational living. We saw the Boomer Justice thread, the co-op you started. We'd love to interview you. Just a quick statement. On camera, if you're willing." I stared at the phone. Then I smiled. "Tell them I have no comment." She paused. "None at all?" I looked around at the house, alive and imperfect. At the loose floorboard, Marcus kept forgetting to fix. At the smudged glass door where Jorge's daughter's fingerprints still lingered from her last visit. At the stack of teacups on the drying rack, chipped but whole. I said what I needed to, I told her, and hung up. Then I walked to the door, locked it, and sat down at the table where the morning sun spilled across the wood like forgiveness. The letter came 2 weeks later. Handwritten, no stamp, just folded neat and slid into the mail slot sometime before dawn. I found it in the hallway, nestled between the morning circulars and a coupon for buy one get one muffins. It was from Jason. No envelope, no address, just 5 lines. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even expect you to read this. I just wanted to say I'm sorry for the way I forgot you were a person. Not a paycheck, not a prop, just my mom. No signature, but the handwriting was his. Crooked, from that old basketball injury in '02. Still made his capital R's look like backward L's. I read it once, then twice, then folded it in half and slid it behind the bread box. Let it rest there, like something you might return to. Or maybe never. That night, the doorbell rang again. Different this time. Not frantic, not performative, just 3 soft knocks. I opened it. A local news anchor stood there, younger than my coffee maker, with perfect teeth and a crew in tow. "Miss Carol?" she chirped, holding a mic like a wand. "We're doing a segment on modern elderhood, how seniors are creating spaces of community in a post-nuclear family era." She gestured toward the porch. "Would you mind giving us a few words? Your stories inspired thousands. We just want to hear it in your own voice." Behind her, the cameraman adjusted his light. I looked at the porch, the swing, the new welcome mat Dorothy picked out that read, "Only kindness enters here." I looked the reporter in the eye and smiled gently. No comment. She blinked. "Just a few words? Even off camera?" I shook my head. "Everything I needed to say," I said. "I've already lived." She hesitated. Then the cameraman gave her a subtle shrug, and they packed up. As she turned, I saw her glance down at the porch swing, maybe imagining herself in it, maybe just realizing there'd be no viral soundbite today. And that's when I knew. I hadn't just won. I'd ended the story on my terms, not on a feed, not on a reel, but here, in the soft clink of dinner plates, in the shared silence between friends who've survived disappointment, in the second pot of tea after dessert. That night, we had lemon bars. Mrs. Patel accidentally dropped one, and we all cheered like kids at recess. Marcus fixed the screen door with spare screws and a bent nail. Dorothy danced barefoot to a record from the '60s, and I watched it all unfold, like a dream I'd forgotten I had. A home. Not borrowed. Not branded. Mine. Jason never showed up again. Kayla tried out for a reality show a month later, some kind of redemption docuseries. Stacy sent me the clip. She was cut in the first round. Too problematic, they said. Imagine that. People ask me all the time, though never in person, only in comment sections and emails I never answer. Would you take your son back? And here's what I want to say. Yes, if he showed up without cameras. Yes, if he came hungry for truth, not tea. Yes, if he knocked, softly this time, and sat on the porch with his head down. Yes, if he remembered how to be a son before expecting to be a man again. But until then, the door stays closed. And this house? She's full. Just for the sound of a house breathing again. Mine.